I was only going to go and get me a cup of tea, and, this happened. Can't even get myself a cup of tea. Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is Ukraine War breaking news update. What is the breaking news? Well, thank you to someone in my threads for alerting me to this. I don't know where my head was, up my own posterior by all accounts. Biden tells Zelensky, according to NBC News, that US will send Ukraine ATACMS long-range missiles, right? I assume you all know what ATACMS are. They're single missiles you can fire off a HIMARS that usually has a pod of 6 missiles that have only 84-kilometer range. These have much longer range, just one missile. And we've had all the arguments. Go and check my video out last night as to why the US wasn't sending ATACMS. And I gave lots of reasons why they weren't. And I said, there is going to be rationale why they're not sending them, right? It's not that they're being stupid. And they've announced it now. A few people, I think, on my threads, on that ATACMS thread, said they will get announced after Zelensky leaves. So it's not that they're not going to do it. It's all about the timing, and there will be other sort of strings attached or variables involved. But lo and behold, Zelensky's now gone off and is wherever he is at the moment. He was in Canada. I don't know where he is right now. Probably back in Ukraine. Probably on the way to meet Polish leaders, to be honest. But yeah, he's out of the US. And then lo and behold, you guys were absolutely right, whoever said that. It was announced subsequently. So anyway, I'm going to read you through the entire NBC article. It's not that long, just to give you a sense of what they're saying. So President Joe Biden has told the Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky that the US will provide a small number of long-range missiles to aid the war with Russia. 3 US officials and a congressional official familiar with the discussions told NBC News on Friday. Today, the officials, who are not authorized to speak publicly, did not say when the missiles would be delivered or when a public announcement would be made. For months, Ukraine has asked for the ATACMS Army tactical missile system, which would give Kyiv the ability to strike targets as far away as 180 miles, hitting supply lines, I think is that 300 kilometers, supply lines, railways, and command and control locations behind the Russian front line. So basically, anywhere within occupied territory is a fair game, and it's the type of missile these are that'll be useful. So something like the Kerch Bridge, you can imagine, would be a prime target. Defense officials have said that the US does not have a large stockpile of excess ATACMS, which would have a bigger payload than traditional artillery to provide to Ukraine. Also, some in Washington have resisted supplying the weapon, known colloquially as ATACMS, out of fear that it would widen the war with Russia. As I said before, I don't think that has been the case. I think that may have been the case a long time ago, but I don't think that's been the case for some time, because it makes no sense, because they've given them the green light on things like F-16s, which is far more escalatory, I think, than ATACMS. The congressional official said there was still a debate about the type of missile that would be sent and how many would be delivered to Ukraine. They added that countries in Eastern Europe had already given Ukraine large portions of their weapons stockpiles. Since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, the Biden administration has shifted its stance on which weapons it is ready to provide to Ukraine's military. The White House initially withheld approval for requests for Stinger, anti-aircraft missiles, howitzer artillery pieces, anti-ship missiles, and HIMARS systems, but later gave the green light for them being shipped. The latest move comes just after 2 months. Over 2 months after Biden signed a presidential waiver on the transfer of cluster munitions to Ukraine, despite the concerns from human rights groups and some US allies that their use will lead to civilian casualties. The dual-purpose improved conventional munitions, or DPICMs, are surface-to-surface warheads that explode and disperse multiple small munitions or bombs over wide areas, bringing more widespread destruction than single rounds. Some human rights groups oppose their use because of concerns that unexploded bomblets or duds could explode after battles, potentially injuring or killing innocent civilians. I've done a video on these. This is arguments been and gone, although listen to the Ukraine latest podcast today, where they've interviewed someone working with the UN who's taken the opposition to the UN, like works often on like torture and whatnot, but has opposition to cluster munitions being used. And actually, like, I just wanted to get into a bit of an argument, and Dom Nichols did well not to get involved, obviously, as a guest who has a lot of good stuff to say on torture and whatnot. But I think the arguments used against cluster munitions are well out, and I think they're overcome by the arguments for them in the context of the Ukraine war. But anyway, that's an aside to today's topic. So, we're going to go on. In May, America and its allies also agreed to provide F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. So I think this renders the argument that it's escalatory, that ATACMS are escalatory, rather moot. So, yeah, while Ukrainian troops have breached Russia's heavily fortified first defensive lines in the south and made progress in the east, with the winter approaching, Kyiv's military has yet to achieve a decisive breakthrough. This has contributed to concerns about ongoing allied support, with signs of frustration among its strongest backers. Poland's prime minister said this week that his country would no longer send arms to its neighbours amid a spiralling trade dispute and ahead of national elections. Well, actually, I think that's a little bit irresponsible reporting, because that, as I've shown today and yesterday, that's not exactly the case. Duda has come out and said that was a misinterpretation, and so on and so forth. So NBC really shouldn't have said that. At the same time, Ukraine has intensified a campaign of missile and drone strikes targeting sites deep behind enemy Russian lines. The occupied Crimean Peninsula has come under repeated attack, as it is today. With the headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet hit in the latest firing missile strike on Friday. So yeah, exactly right. Today that happened. Right. Okay. Small amount of ATACMS. Don't know exactly which variant. I think there are several variants of them, but this is good news. As I said, there have been reasons. I don't quite know what the reasons are, but there would have been reasons, and that's why the timing. If the rationale this time round is that we are going to give them, just not yet. So everyone was kicking up a right old stink, and I think probably unnecessarily so. Like, they're either going to be given, they're going to be, some people are saying that they might have been a reaction to mobilization moves by Russia. So if Russia went for a mass mobilization, then the US were going to say, right, and we're going to give ATACMS. But it seems like that's not the case. Just waiting for some reason, it wasn't useful for them to announce this whilst Zelensky was in the US. However, I do wonder whether they are out there already, whether this has been agreed ahead of time, and the announcement. Some people are saying this. Some people are saying that the announcement will come and they're probably already in Ukraine. I don't know whether that's the case, but it wouldn't surprise me. But then again, it might not be the case. Either way, you can imagine they'll be on the first flight out to Ukraine. So it's not going to be long until you see these being utilized on the front line. Of that, I'm pretty certain. They could be really significant, right? They will be good, although there are all the arguments I said earlier that you can do similar with Neptunes, with ground-launched small diameter bombs, but there's just seems to be a lack of the GLSDB at the moment. I don't know what's going on with the production lines for them. It could be that ATACMS have been given as a stopgap to the GLSDB coming online. It seems to be that there aren't going to be a massive amount of these given. I don't know if that is a kind of the idea for going forward, like full stop, or whether it's just a small amount right now, see how they get on with them, and then let the floodgates open. Whatever the rationale has been, that seal has been broken, and that is good for Ukraine. I mean, whether these are the best missiles to use or not is kind of irrelevant, because they just need everything, all missiles. Let them make the choice of what they're going to use in any given fire mission. So I think this is brilliant. Hopefully it's definitely true. Like, this isn't a slip of the tongue that's actually not accurate. Let me know what you think. I'm happy with this. Good luck to Ukraine in using them effectively. Anyway, Tilda Pips, speak soon.